Welcome everyone, Questini here with a discussion about Belegar in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. Belegar is certainly a powerful legendary lord, but his campaign is not quite worth playing, I would dare say. The reason I make that particular argument is simply because while Belegar is a really powerful legendary lord, his faction effects are of such a nature that you kind of don't want to bother with him. His campaign could be a lot of fun, to be certain. It has featured a lot of twists and turns over here. For instance, me fighting Vlad, defeating him, getting a peace deal because I just don't have the resources necessary to crush him. Or one of my armies is not enough to completely crush him, not considering everything else that's going on around him. Or what's going on over here in Tylea, where I deliberately allowed Warzag the ability to take Tylea. The reason is, the way I did this is, I beat a couple of Warzag's armies, and then after doing so, he was willing to agree to a peace, but he was still at war with the border princes, whom I had sold all of this territory to after I had beaten Aranessa. Now, it's interesting to talk about Belegar's campaign, because, the campaign's oh, fight these greenskins to take this element, Confederate Karak. But why if you ignore that? One of the things you can do very quickly is wipe out Claw and then Mogre, which will relieve every single bit of pressure on your western flank. How is Estalia still alive? Well, I got the rebellion from them, and then they were willing to get a peace treaty with me, so yeah, twists and turns. This campaign can go in many, many interesting ways. Just because, on one hand, you want to go to Karak 8 Peaks relatively quickly, right? You want to get here. You want to get the Grand Underway Junction. And also you want to get rid of that 50% upkeep that you have until you reclaim Karak 8 Peaks. And Oath Fulfilled gives you low recruit rank, control, and leadership against Greenskins. This is your true faction effect. Because the one you start with, yeah, that's kind of crap. But getting Oath Fulfilled, that is a significantly beneficial effect. So the way to view Belegar's campaign is more of a campaign that starts off in a very annoying situation. I wouldn't say slow, because it sure as hell is not slow when you have 4 heroes and the sheer amount of power the Belegar has in his army. But just an exceptional frustrating start. But then later on, an enormous amount of potential in this campaign. Because having this level of control, consider this. You get free control, for control from Oath Fulfilled. You deal with the grudges, you get free, so that's 7. And then you get High King Authority, so you're looking, if we look at any particular province over here, so we get 4 from Technology, 4 from Events, 8, 3 from Characters, ignore that particular thing, but we're looking at 11 control, which means that not only will you never face rebellions as Belegar, but you're probably going to be able to get one of the highest control levels of any Dwarven campaign, and that's before you account for, of course, the fact that you can get refactories. And this, in turn, will give you a good level of growth. Now, Thorgrim does have better growth than Belegar, inherently, but it is with a commandment. Belegar gets better growth just because he gets a higher level of control. Now, by the way, just a side note that I want to make here. You can't actually sell Sartosa to anyone. It's a bit of a weird one. It doesn't make sense. Because you don't necessarily care about Sartosa itself. It's just beneficial to wipe out Aranessa. You get a lot of money for the process. And then you sell this territory to the border princes. Depends on how things shape up. You may have to go save Thorgrim from Skarsnik if that works out well for Skarsnik. So you gotta consider, this is what I mean about twists and turns. Thorgrim might beat Skarsnik. He did here. Or rather, he defeated him here, but Skarsnik went to Karak 8 Peak, so I had to defeat him there. And then you have to deal with Quake. I would say this campaign could be very, very interesting, and if not for the inherent issues that the dwarves do have. Because, you got a lot of twists and turns, how do you manage the diplomatic situation with Scrag, with Warzag, with Aranessa, with the border princes, and how you deal with the fact that, oh, you might have Zufbar that's willing to confederate with you, and grant you a potentially huge amount of power if you do get Zufbar. Because Zufbar, it's not that Zufbar is so useful, It's in fact a pretty crappy province when you're dealing with Vlad, because it's very vulnerable. Like, if Vlad can attack from Dragunov and either Oakenhammer or Zufbar itself, that's annoying. So over here I did lose Oakenhammer. But at the same time, the level of potential that happens here is significant. Interestingly enough, it was actually Azag that had taken Oakenhammer originally, and then Zufbar was like, oh, let's confederate, and then it's like I just recruited a bunch of units. You will rely a lot on, like, post-battle loot in this campaign. More so post-battle loot from defeating Legendary Lords, or just, yeah, like, defeating Scrag, letting him survive, not finishing him off deliberately, getting a peace agreement, then Scrag comes back to an extent, he declares war, then you finish him off. It's that kind of dynamic, and I think it makes for certainly a better early game in that respect, if not for that 50% upkeep, which kind of ruins it. Though you could ignore all of that and just like, okay, say screw it. We're just gonna march on Karak 8 Peaks and take it as quickly as possible. I think that's a bad idea, because it will certainly limit your campaign potential. Besides, Copper Mountain is pretty damn powerful in Karak. So don't ignore the possibilities there. Like, I just feel like Belegar should not suffer so much in his early game with that 50%. Like, if he didn't have that 50% upkeep, I would say this campaign is actually a lot of fun. Very interesting. Like, just the dynamics you have to deal with. Because on one hand, you do want to go for Karak 8 Peaks. Like, let's say if you just had the same downside like Skarsnik or Queek. Like, Skarsnik and Queek still care about it because it's control. So if you had to care about... And honestly, you would care about it regardless, just because of the enormous benefit you get from O-Fulfilled. So not having that, so not having this 50% upkeep is just like, yeah, the campaign would actually be better for it. Beyond the inherent issues of like growth and casualty replenishment for the dwarves, and yeah, the annoyance of grudges, like, oh, raid some regions for whatever reason. It's like raid Skaven territory, or win 5 battles against greenskins. Okay, that's easy enough. Raid any region belonging to a greenskin. Easy enough in theory. In theory, I emphasize that point. Still. It is a good campaign due to just like the sheer power of hero. Like, how do you take Skaven Blight? Well, your heroes are really powerful. And you can craft craft a lot of items as dwarves through the forge, like unlimited. Once you get to like, what is it, 120 of gold? Something like that, yeah. Once you get to like 120 of gold, you can craft unlimited items. It is an annoying system, to be sure. I personally don't much care for it, but it is there at the very least. The possibilities do, at the very least, exist. Not particularly great how it's handled, but it is at least doable. Worth pointing that out. One major annoyance I would say that exists in this campaign that is going to limit the potential you do have in it is, let's go with Trophy. One issue that is going to exist in this particular campaign is like the victory conditions. You need to defeat both Skarsnik and Queek. And in this case, I got lucky with regards to... I got lucky with regards to Skarsnik and how that was handled. But because Forgrim defeated him. But it is certainly annoying with Queek to come all the way here, and I did Confederate Karak, so come all the way here to have to deal with that. I mean, you kind of want to anyway, because you'll encounter Forek, okay, fair enough, but...
Then we talk.
And you do want to eventually Confederate Forek in this particular campaign.
Anad.
So there's possibilities,
My kin,
absolutely,
the throng of Cadre
that you can
welcomes
take advantage
you,
of.
I suppose.
It seems like he's losing against Azak. Mind you, Azak ended up fighting both Draika and Ungrim. That's the reason I declared war on him for some money. Well, I fought one of his armies myself, but still. I think Warzang might have defeated Malagor here. I don't know. It's hard to say. Sometimes it's like hard to know what's going on. But with this campaign, it's just like a lot of twists and turns. The annoying thing is if Forgrim gets wiped out, I mean, you can get him back with various methods, if you will, like with getting like a rebellion Karak, letting him have it, and eventually confederating him, if you want to.
The goddess.
But I'm not really fond of the dynamic that exists there. Like, here's the reason why this campaign is not worth playing. Like, the main reason. Ungrim and Belegar himself have a good amount of durability in their campaigns. You can't quite say the same about Forgrim. Like, out of all the legendary lords of the dwarves, yes, Grumbrindle does tend to get wiped out, to be certain. But there's nothing you can do about that. But the thing to state on that subject, and I apparently don't have, let's see. The thing to state on that particular subject is the fact that, yes, Grumbrindle will almost always get wiped out. That is kind of inevitable. But outside of that, like the big wild card in the dwarf campaign for the other free lords, or four really, including Forik. Like, this is something you care about Forik. This is something that does affect Forik's campaign, because you obviously, like, as the dwarves can be really good if they confederate one another, right? I mean, they will still have the issues present in their campaigns, to be certain. I'm just checking for students because I want to improve that research rate. They will still have issues. What's with the archivist? Okay, so I guess you can only maintain one. No, apparently not. That's what? Okay. Yeah, I'm not. I can't. Like, maybe it's one student, one archivist per army. What the fuck do I know? Regardless, for the dwarves, confederation is incredibly powerful. Oh, maybe it. Like, they already had it, but I would just scroll down over here. That might be an explanation. But the issue you're going to have in every campaign except Forgrim's own is the fact that you don't know if Skarsnik wins against Forgrim or not. Like, because, like, it's very, very easy for Skarsnik to just get, like, the faction potential right, rise up, and wipe out Forgrim, which is obviously not the dynamic and not the situation you want to encounter when you're playing any Dwarven campaigns. Because Forgrim is really good. Like, the fact that he increases hero capacity by 1 for each hero type is beyond incredible. So you do want him alive. So if he gets wiped out, you're screwed. I mean, you can just get the rebellion, get him back again. It's doable, but that's not a great situation to engage in. I mean, you could always use the recruit, defeat, and legendary lords mod. I highly recommend it. But the important point I'm making here about all of this is the fact that, yeah, if you're playing a campaign over here, you gotta consider the fact, like, as Belegar, as Ungrim, as Forik, that, yeah, Forgrim, who's in the center here, which is kind of important,
it is an honor,
may not necessarily survive. If he does, like he did here, you may get lucky. Truthfully, it's because Skarsnik just marched his army over here to Karak Peaks directly. If he survives, that's great. That's good. You'll be fine. But it's just that dynamic that makes it less interesting to play Belegar's campaign. Or not less interesting, just kind of an annoyance to have to deal with in this particular campaign. Can work out well, can work out poorly. Can be a case of, like, you trying to run around with limited resources to put out fires, can end up with a massive empire like I have over here. This is a pretty solid situation for different settlements, taking the Western Badlands, making a good amount of income. Vlad being on the back foot, about to be wiped out by Gelt. Yeah, Gelt actually doing shit. Ooh, imagine that dynamic. Gelt is extremely passive. Like, if you're playing an Imperial campaign, you almost always want to play... Like, if you want to play an Imperial campaign in Empire, it's better to play Gelt than Karl Franz for a huge number of reasons, including abusing Nuln, or particularly this element in Nuln, selling it to Haverheim again and again. It is more annoying than Karl Franz because you don't have replenishment in foreign territory, so that's going to screw you over a bit. But it can be done. It's not really the worst situation. Just get an army to take the settlement over and over again as you sell it to Aberheim and just, yeah, rotate, like, between two armies. Easy enough jump. But yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, Forgrim is so important, and because Belegar and Ungrim have a survivability that Forgrim does not, and because Forgrim has such massive diplomatic benefits that Belegar and Ungrim don't have, it's like that kind of makes it less relevant to play this particular campaign. Because the true strength of Belegar and whatever strength Ungrim has is in their lord skills. They're good lord skills. They're powerful. Like, you can get all of Belegar's great heroes through Confederation. So there is, like, why would you go for it? Yeah, Fulfilled is powerful, but it takes you like 30 plus turns to get a benefit like that. And I guess the way I would describe a Belegar campaign, Forgrim is much better in the early game. Grombrindle is the best in the early game. But if you're interested in a campaign of balance, then yeah, Forgrim is much better in the early game because of the growth benefits, all that. Belegar is better if you're looking to build a massive global empire, as the dwarves. That's probably the best way I could put it right here. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.